I've never told this to anyone before, but when I saw your post about anonymous confessions, I thought it would be a safe way to confess my guilt. Billy was my best friend. We grew up together as neighbors on Cherry Street. It was a different time, a time when kids could just play outside unsupervised for hours on end, and we did. Every Saturday morning at first light, we quickly grabbed some breakfast and hopped on our bikes to join the other neighborhood kids for a day of ball tossing, hide and seek, and bike rides a little further than our parents would have probably approved of. Life seemed perfect, and I trusted Billy with my life. He always had my back, and an occasional black eye that showed it. I was the same for him, or at least I thought I was. As the years progressed, our interests diverged. He was an avid baseball player, and I preferred football. He maintained excellent grades at Pittsfield High School. I did okay, but I also got into some minor trouble from skipping classes, smoking in the bathroom, and repeated tardiness. While I dated often, never with the same girl for very long, Billy had settled into a long relationship with Erin. Erin was pretty, and like Billy, a strong student. She was a little shy, but truly loved Billy. There were never any outward signs of typical high school drama in their relationship. They just were, Billy and Erin, like a single entity. We all graduated the same year from high school and moved on to college. Billy and Erin were accepted into Williams College, while I went to Westfield State. We drifted apart during this time, with only occasional holiday break meetups. For the most part, this part of our lives was of a typical college experience, mine including a much greater degree of binge drinking and late nights than that of Billy and Erin. This all changed toward the end of our senior year. I received a call from Erin very unexpectedly. She was upset and was looking for Billy, wondering if I had heard from him recently. I was surprised by the call and explained that it had been a few months since we had spoken. I asked her what was going on. She was quiet for a long pause and said that it was probably nothing. She followed by quickly saying that she had another call coming in and had to go. The line disconnected. I didn't hear from Erin again for a few weeks. I hadn't heard from Billy either. I tried to reach out to him a couple of times, but always either received a full voicemail box or endless rings. I was surprised when I bumped into Erin at a party back home in Dalton one Saturday night. Erin was alone, without Billy. This was very misplaced, because Erin was never one to attend parties when we were in high school, and I certainly never saw her ingest a drop of alcohol. Even more strange was the absence of Billy. I made my way toward her before she noticed me approaching. As she glanced up at me, it appeared as though she wrestled between unease of being caught doing something wrong and relief of seeing a familiar face. I asked her how she was and if Billy was with her. She only shook her head no. She asked if I could give her a ride home. She said she had come with some friends that were not ready to leave and she shouldn't have come. After we left, she directed me to Grange Hall Road, to where her grandmother had lived before her death a few months earlier. She was quiet during the ride, before I broke the awkward silence about what had been going on. First, the phone call, and now this. And where was Billy? She went on to explain that for several months Billy had been cheating on her. This only added more confusion to the situation. Erin began describing a pattern of Billy pulling away from her. At first, he seemed more distant when they were together. Before long, he began spending less time with her, always for a reason that felt just a little bit off. Over time, this only increased. Eventually, Erin asked Billy if he wanted to end their relationship, and if there was someone else. Billy brushed it off, offended at her question. Erin said this continued until earlier that week. Billy said that he had to spend a few days with a group from school completing a final project. He said that he would be at the cabin of a student's family in Vermont that was known to Erin. Erin believed him this time, and she hoped that once school was finished, the strain of long hours studying and nerves of the future would subside and things would return to normal between them. This hope soon shattered after she passed Billy driving down the highway, hours from where he was supposed to be in Vermont. She described being shaken and rattled as she detoured to trail behind him. After entering the parking lot of a medical facility, Billy got out of his car. Only moments later, a female also exited a nearby Jeep and approached Billy, embracing him in a hug. Erin described feeling sick, with time seeming to stop as her entire body became very warm. She couldn't move. Her entire body felt stuck in the moment. Billy entered the building with the woman, and that was the last she had seen him. She eventually started driving, not remembering where she had driven for several hours, before she found herself driving toward her grandmother's home. After turning her phone off, Erin spent the next 2 days crying. She still hadn't spoken to Billy. She had, however, reached out to an old friend, the one that had convinced her that going to the party would make her feel better. It had not. This is where I made the biggest mistake that I have ever made in my life, and there had been a longer list than I would like to have admitted to myself. I had been fighting a substance abuse addiction for over a year that was well hidden from everyone, even my friends and family. I thought that because I was still functioning to what I determined to be a high degree, that I could get it under control and redirect my life that was beginning to go in the wrong direction. I was wrong. I wish that I could offer a clear or logical explanation about what happened next, but after years of reflection, I still am unable to do so. Erin had asked if I wanted to come in and talk for a little while. I did, and before long the somber tone lightened as we reminisced about happier times during our days of high school. Erin was emotional, wanting to return to a happier time, and I think that I was desperate for a real connection after months of feeling isolated and alone, hiding my addiction. The memory has always remained a little foggy for me, but clear enough that I could never convince myself that it hadn't happened. This was the bottom point of my addiction. I'd betrayed the greatest friend that I ever had. I should have been the same strong friend that had spent a childhood defending me. I should have been a healthy support for Erin. I should have done a lot of things differently, but I didn't. Instead, I took the love of his life to bed, being the only man to have done so but Billy. The next morning was filled equally with disgust and regret for each of us. There wasn't anything to say. I gathered my clothing and left. I didn't see or speak to Erin or Billy for months, until we both attended a local event at Wacona Park. Once I caught sight of them, I tried to exit before being seen. After taking a few steps away, I heard Billy's familiar voice call out my name. I wanted to just start running, but I didn't. I turned and began my best attempt at seeming surprised as I greeted Billy. Erin couldn't look at me, focusing on moving some dirt around with her shoes instead. Billy excitedly asked how I was and for details of my emerging adult life. I struggled and returned the conversation toward him. Erin excused herself to use the bathroom. Billy went on to tell me that he had just been cleared of cancer that he had been fighting for over a year. He talked of how rough his senior year had been and how he had made mistakes and how he handled it with Erin. He feared that the knowledge of his diagnosis would likely have caused her to leave school, or would at least have had a significant impact on her academic achievement as she finished her degree. He had kept it from her, instead finding his support in Jennifer, a cousin that we grew up with. He never told Erin about the appointments, the treatments, the times of feeling too sick to hide his suffering. Erin believed he had been cheating, and they almost ended their relationship before he had told her everything. I felt like the blood was draining from my body. I fought every urge that rose to throw up. What I had done was inexcusable, but now it was clear to me that as bad as I felt, reality was worse, and it didn't stop its descent with the knowledge of Billy's battle with cancer. I don't know how I didn't notice while Erin was standing beside Billy, but as I watched her return from the restroom, I realized she was pregnant. My mind quickly began doing the math, hoping that the feeling in my gut was misplaced. When Erin returned, Billy broke the news of their soon-to-be growing family. I congratulated them, and as I looked in Erin's face, my worst fears were confirmed. The child wasn't Billy's. The relationship between Billy and I was never the same after that, despite Billy's efforts to return to our bond. Erin and I both found any reason we could to deflect the invitations that Billy made. I had reached Erin once, despite her reluctance, after the baby was born, and asked her if we should seek a DNA test. She said that it wasn't needed because she knew my fears were true. She wanted to leave it alone and allow Billy to believe the child was his. I have always wondered if Billy knew that the child wasn't his on some level. He should have, given the time of conception and the impact his cancer treatments would have had on his body. Maybe he was blinded by the trust he had in Erin. Or maybe he just didn't want to face the possibility. I'm certain that he never would have expected me to have been a possibility. When the baby was 15 months old, Erin was in a terrible car accident that took her life, leaving Billy with an infant and a life to build on his own. He was devastated. Billy moved back home from New York City, where he and Erin had moved for their careers. I was back in Pittsfield after barely graduating that senior college year. The guilt that I carried took its toll on me, and my life was never put back on track. Billy struggled and reached out to me in need of the friendship that we once shared. It's been 26 years since Erin's death. 26 years of helping Billy raise the child that I conceived with Erin, never realizing that the uncle title was misplaced upon me.